Champions League, never been in the Champions League. It's his first game. I haven't spoke to EGAL since the sacking, really, and I'm really intrigued to get your take on this. Graham Potter's first game. Do you feel like he's going to do a good job at Chelsea, or do you feel as though this is going to be? I mean, I'm seeing people say this is David Moyes 2.0. I've seen others go on like this is going to be the start of something fantastic. What's your take on this, and how do you think he's going to do in his first game this week?
We're not going to see any change in his first game. It's gonna be very similar to Thomas Tuchel. He's coming in, he's gonna have to manage the team until he can get some time to train with them, similar to Arteta. This is realistically, he's lucky that the Liverpool game called off because he'll at least get some training with these guys. But until he trains with them and has some coaching on the pitch, off the pitch in training, you're not going to see him actually instill anything. You're not going to see major changes. You're not going to see anything different from what Thomas Tuchel was doing until he gets adequate time with these players. So anyone to expect anything in the first game, that's ridiculous.
You reckon he goes to back four eventually?
No, he's going to stick with the back three. You're going to see him play the exact same system for the rest of the year. Genuinely, he's going to be very similar to Thomas Tuchel for the rest of the year. The only difference is you're going to see certain players being a little bit more aggressive in their attack, maybe a little bit more passing. But realistically, Thomas Tuchel and Thomas Tuchel might be considered a little bit more pragmatic, but stylistically they play very similar. It's just because he's at Brighton, we consider it a little bit more free-flowing and a little bit more attacking.
Okay. Graham Potter and Thomas Tuchel, the same style, Kaz. What are you saying?
Nah, it's not the same style. It might be the same formations, but not the same style. I don't think Potter's. I doubt he's afraid to go to a back four, but I think to suit what he knows Cucurella very well, knows how to utilize him very well. He's got Chilwell, he's got Reece James. If you're thinking about the lack of decent enough wingers, except for Sterling, of course, then he probably would go for a similar kind of team. I don't see why not, but if I was him, I would definitely switch to a back four. I don't think any great successful side over the years of football ever really played a back three and went on to win loads and loads and loads consecutively. I think he probably sees himself winning or staying at Chelsea for a long time. I feel the lack of midfielders needs a bit more help than the defense needs a little bit more help. If anything, like decent enough midfielders that can stay fit. But I reckon he stays with a back three for now, and probably a similar team for now as well. I reckon he uses Broja a lot more than he does Aubameyang potentially as well. Like I think this is young, hungry striker willing to get him behind, feed off Sterling. Like Graham Potter's going to play some good football at the end of the day, and it's not going to be defensive football, is it?
No, but
why won't he be defensive? Why won't he be defensive?
They don't have the personnel right now to change to a back four.
Why won't he be
defensive? They do have the personnel to change to a back four. They do. You remember they got Kovacic who's fit now. They got to destroy it in. I get it. We ain't seen him yet in Zakaria, so they got that sort of option. He's got a playmaker in Jorginho. He can have runners behind. Depends how he wants to utilize it. They've got Koulibaly, Fofana, Reece James, Chilwell, or Cucurella to play in the back four. Of course, they have the personnel. They got Mount. They can play high. They got Havertz. They can play in attacking mid his actual position. They got a Broja and a Aubameyang. They got a Sterling. I get the weak link is pretty much right wing. They got all the types. He's got all the types of personnel to play whatever system he sees fit. Koulibaly can play in a back three or a back four, but it just depends really. I'd rather see Koulibaly in a back four where I feel like he's probably more comfortable than being used as an out wide centre back.
My thing is I don't know how Graham Potter gets the goals out of the team. I don't know how they're going to score goals.
We said the same thing about Brighton though.
I said not really. I think Sterling's obviously got goals in him. Aubameyang, I mean, you say Aubameyang's got goals in him, you can get the right play style out of him. But at the end of the day, Chelsea's style of football, obviously under Thomas Tuchel, was way too defensive for the quality of their team. I think especially individually. You always look at those individuals, because you name the individuals. These guys I personally think Chelsea are way too good to be playing the style of football they play. And I think Potter, in my opinion, should be ballsy enough to go and play a back four. I think he's not going to do that. I think it's going to be a back five for the rest of the season, like you said. But I think eventually he probably needs to go to a back four to really unleash these players. I think you look at Reece James and you look at Chilwell, and these are serious wing backs. And I understand, the three at the back and, being hard to beat. But when you're spending 300 M's, not 250 M's or whatever you're spending, like, you should be going gung-ho. You should be going toe-to-toe with the other guys. I think it's different I know people talk about Man United spending, but Chelsea spending the same amount and being where they are, a lot closer to, you know, the Liverpools and the Cities. Well, in fact, better than the Liverpools and maybe closer to the Cities. I don't think there's much of an excuse. Now they've got their manager. I understand they're not Potter's players, but you've got enough tools there to do something now and later, in my opinion, because they've clearly shown that they're probably going to back him in January, maybe next summer as well, on top of the quality they've already got. I don't think there's many excuses. I don't think this guy needs as much better than
what? You're not making the change to Graham Potter with the image to expect to win major trophies now. You're doing for longevity. You're doing it to expect things for the future. You're building for the future. Yeah. You're trying to build a project under his picture. So this whole season, they're probably writing it off. They're just basically saying this whole season,
this ain't no free hit. This whole
season for Chelsea is not even a negative. They're backing this manager. They're going to see which players suit his style. They're going to see which players he is okay with, which players fit what he wants to do going forward. And then they're going to try to shift out players in the summer or in the January window that he doesn't seem fit. So this whole season for Chelsea, now that they've brought in a new manager, it's basically starting from scratch, and they're behind everybody else.
I don't know if you can call it a free hit after 300 million spent.
What are their expectations? Their expectations are top floor.
300 M's.
Bro, what are their expectations? They sacked Thomas Tuchel. They brought in a new manager. They're gonna start from the beginning. Of course, they're gonna try to win whatever they can. But realistically, if they finish the season with no Champions League, no league, no domestic cups, and a top four, they're happy. And if they don't get top four, and if they don't get
I disagree.
One second, let me finish, and then you can speak. And it's not even a negative. I'm just saying I'm not putting high expectations on him. Coming into his first big job, I'm saying realistically, even if he doesn't get top four, he's not getting sacked. He got a 5-year contract.
Yeah, I get it. They're trying to go with longevity. That they're breaking their structure of short-term successful managers. But for me, that doesn't mean the expectation changes. You know what I mean? The resources at Chelsea always provide you with the resources.
Always. I've got to disagree though. You know what I have to say on that though, once and EGAL as well, is that we keep going back to the Chelsea that we all know in the Roman Abramovich Chelsea. We don't know how Todd Bowley likes to do things. Do you get what I'm saying? So we can't expect
300 M's in his first window.
But he spent. The thing is, Todd B can kind of just say, the fact is they spent 300 M's. He's new to the whole, obviously the football game and everything alongside it. Yes, he spent 300 M's of what Tuchel wanted, and it didn't work out, and he has to take down a chin. But I just don't think that a good manager can bring the best out of these players. It's not like they're rubbish players either. Yeah, some of them might not fit what he wants.
They know what they want.
But he made the most. He made the most out of a Brighton squad that wasn't firing last season. Still finished somewhere. So he's used to a team that's not really scoring. And then come to this season, he's had another season like with them, and now they're looking like they're creating chances. His positional game is very good. His positional and tactics are very good. I just feel like I think he'll be a success at Chelsea, and I don't want him to be. But I just
want to say this. I think there's some misconceptions. I think one thing I want to say to EGAL, then I'm going to explain it. I think, because it took your manager nearly 3 years to really implement his style, it's almost that you're projecting a little bit. Like, no, he won't make an impact straight away. You'll barely see a difference. It takes time because it took your manager time. And you know what happens if Potter gets his style being produced very quickly. You know people will use that as a stick to beat your manager with. 100%. I know that's coming.
That's not where I'm coming from, though.
I believe that's where it is. But let me explain why. So first, I'll say 2 names: Eddie Howe, Patrick Vieira. They got their teams playing their brand of football very quickly. Now, you can argue Patrick Vieira had a pre-season. Eddie Howe didn't, and it was 2 or 3 games into his Newcastle reign, and the way he played football compared to, who was the manager he replaced? Steve Bruce. The football that him and Steve Bruce played with practically the same squads was night and day. So you can make an impact very quickly. You're right, though, that they shouldn't be expected. Graham Potter shouldn't be expected to go from where they are right now to win in the Premier League this year, because you're competing against Man City. You've got to get your feet under the table. But I think there will be an improvement. In terms of how does he score goals with this squad, Brighton have one of the best XGs in the country. They create some of the best goal-scoring opportunities in the Premier League, but they didn't have goal scorers. Right now, they have 2 attackers who, between them in their career, have 457 goals. How many of our How many goals if you combine up all Arsenal's attacking players' goals and all of Man United, but barring Ronaldo because he's obviously past it now. We don't have that. Our clubs don't have that. Yeah, with Ronaldo, you take Ronaldo out, we know he's passing better. These guys are still in their prime to a degree in comparison to Ronaldo. These guys have 457 goals between them. They've got goal scorers in their team. If he can get that, and by the way, would you agree, Gal? Would you agree that pound for pound, the players in the Chelsea squad are better than the players in the Brighton squad?
Yeah, 100%.
So if he can get that group fairly quickly playing his style of football and creating the opportunities, why can't he do that with the Chelsea team? I understand there isn't loads of time to run these patterns and everything else, but you do realize a lot of these players are experienced. They understand football, and they're not going to be being taught things by Graham Potter, which are going to be, oh my God, I've just learned how to light a fire. Like, football's a fairly basic sport. Like, people act like it takes an eternity to implement something. I don't think it will. Will he get it week in, week out, the very best Chelsea that he can ever manage to produce year one? No. And you'll see my predictions as to why I think that later. But to think that he's just going to carry on like Tuchel was, being fairly negative, not breaking teams down, I think that's wishful thinking as opposed to what you really believe. I think most fans are a little bit worried, a little bit scared, a little bit, oh, what if this goes wrong?
It's not even about that, Terry. For me, it's strictly the fact that he's taking over a team in the middle of the season. He unlike what's it called, Eddie Howe at Newcastle, where he had the January window to bring players in. He's predominantly going to have to deal with the players that he already has. They're already used to playing a back three. I think their squad is imbalanced to the level where they if they go to a back four, it hinders them because a lot of their best players are defenders and wing backs that helps them create a lot of their chances. So changing it is detrimental to their style. And honestly, this is not even banter or anything. I'm not even trying to take away from him. I think he's actually a decent coach. I'm just saying, I don't put him on the same level as Thomas Tuchel and some of these other guys where I'm gonna have to expect a Champions League or a league or something from these guys. I think expectations are quite low, and that's why they gave him a 5-year deal to give him time to embed his system, take his time. And it's not an insult to the Chelsea players or anything at all. I just think he's going to stick with what's been working and make minor tweaks instead of overhauling everything.
That's not a bad show.
I get that. I do get that. But again, Tuchel, if you take Tuchel's system and you score on average 1.5, 2 goals more per game, it's a fucking brilliant system, isn't it? like it's amazing.
It's more easier than done though, Terry.
Players weren't happy.
But
The players
why is it? But why? Okay, maybe he is, but everybody needs to be given the opportunity and the chance. Take Jurgen Klopp. If Dortmund didn't give him a chance, and then if Liverpool didn't give him a chance, he wouldn't be Jurgen Klopp. If Arsene Wenger never got the opportunity at Arsenal, he wouldn't be Arsene Wenger.
But there's not a lot of Arsene Wenger's Klopps or you know what I mean. There's not a lot of these guys. These guys don't come around very often. So I'm not saying. I think Tuchel will actually be successful. I think Potter will be successful. By the way, I'm not saying he's not going to be successful, but I think that one, it just shouldn't be a free hit, and two, I understand that it's not completely played on football. It's so easy to say that, yeah, if you can get these men firing, then Chelsea are a mad force. But at the end of the day, I see him as an inferior manager to Thomas Tuchel, and I don't think it's as easy as people say. I don't think it's going to be that easy.
Everyone,
yeah. So go on,
I was gonna say every manager has their time when they come and shine and show everyone what they can do. Just like Klopp before he joined Dortmund, just like any manager before any. And I thought, you know what's mad? I think because he's a British manager, it makes me want him to be successful as well more than the average manager. Just even though he is Chelsea and I'm a Man United fan, I do want him to be successful just because I want to see England eventually employ that man when he gets sacked in the future. But long story short, it's just I just feel like with like we've seen Chelsea under Tuchel, they can play football and good football. They can pass, they can do a bit of everything. To be fair, the imbalance. I hear what you're saying, Agal. You pretty much hit the nail on the head. But I reckon this season for me, he doesn't have to win anything. He's got a free hit to implement what he wants, but it obviously shows some progression within the team, and that's it. Just like Man United, just want to see progression within the team and see where you're heading. I
think the term free hit is quite a controversial one in football in the sense of they've already said if he doesn't make top four, he isn't going to be sacked straight away, and that's the most fearful thing in this. Because I feel with Chelsea in the past, that doesn't mean you can be unsuccessful. Because if we get to the end of the season and they're sitting ninth, the football's got worse, the players hate him, they will sack him. Like this, you won't be sacked no matter what. He's a little bit of a nonsense. Like you still have to improve the team. But where Chelsea have gone wrong in the past is when managers have not been quite as good as they expected, but things are still progressing, they've sacked them. The way they got rid of Carlo Ancelotti, as an example, was one of the biggest L's they ever made. Getting rid of Jose after like the first year in the three, just under 3 that he'd been there, that he wasn't quite top of the league. By the way, Chelsea was still the second best team in the league. They got rid of him. The guy a year and a half later or so fucking does a treble. Like, this is the thing. Like, I think sticking with a manager, as long as the team's improving, as long as they're bought into his ideas, is something different from Chelsea. And if you create that continuity and spend the money, this is why I'm scared of what Chelsea are doing right now, because they're behaving in a way that the great clubs in 2022 behave. You have a club plan above a manager's plan. You have a club plan that goes beyond that head coach. That head coach has got to buy into it. And of course, you can take ideas from them. You can learn from them the same way that City and Liverpool have learned from Pep and Klopp respectively. But with Chelsea looking to spend the way they're looking to spend, expanding the stadium, they're also looking to bring one of the best directors of football in the world before the January transfer window. They're looking at the likes of Edwards. They're looking at Campos, has only just gone to PSG, and according to some credible reports, they are willing to pay him whatever it takes to get him out of there. They want to do things properly, and I think people are judging Chelsea on short-term actions as opposed to looking at the long-term plan. And they're a little bit like the ugly duckling right now. It may not look exactly how you want it to, and people are laughing, but I think they could end up having the last laugh here, because